Okay, I hope we're live. Good evening. My name is Jackie MacDonald, Acting Head of Communications and Fundraising. Thank you for joining us this evening for this important information session in support of Carers Week. We're delighted to have you here. Before I go any further, I just want to ask anybody who's watching to turn off their cameras and their mics. And I do need to advise that we are recording this session because we know there's a lot of people interested in this information who possibly can't jump on this evening. So this whole video will be recorded and put on playback on our smh.ie website. We do value your questions and we encourage them. What I'd ask you to do is to put your questions into the chat box and we will address them all then at the end. Just before I introduce you to the panel, I would like to share my screen now and play our home sharing video just to give you a bit more of an insight into the programme.
Home sharing is when an ordinary family in the community welcome a child or an adult with a learning disability into their home to provide short break respite. These short breaks can include daycare, evening care or overnight care depending on the family's availability and the level of support that they're able to provide. We welcome people from all walks of life, from all ages and from all kinds of housing. We're looking for caring and energetic people who are enthusiastic to be a home sharing family.
My name is Sylvia. I'm a host family to Hannah and Jackie. They're a great part of my family. They interact with them all, my grandchildren, my children. I love their company. You couldn't be in a bad humour around them. We all just fit together, if that makes sense.
We pack a bag overnight, we stay overnight, we have some stuff here already in the house. She asks us what do we want to do, whether it's pictures, bowling, anything. It's our evening out and it's up to us for what we want to do.
I love coming to Sylvia every Friday. I do have gossip. No gossip.
There's great support from the home sharing scheme. You have nurse manager on call. I have a social worker. Like if anything goes wrong or I need any support or any advice, I ring them.
I love Sylvia down at the end. I love having a social life and that. She's very good to me. She's like a mother hen to me. Isn't that right, Jackie?
When you see the change in their personalities and like Hannah runs her own house, she has a great independence in herself now, so she has control over her own life.
Once you apply to become a home sharing family, 2 members of the team call out to meet you and your family. It's an opportunity for us to get to know you, your family, the amenities in your area, your work and your life experience, your skill set, your motivation, commitment, and your availability to do home sharing. We facilitate home sharing training for you and your family, and we also facilitate specific training pertaining to the guest's needs. Inductions for you and the guest are done on a very phased and gradual basis until everybody feels comfortable. We have 24/7 support with the professional assistance of nurse manager on call. So there's always a professional at the end of the phone for you if you have any worries or concerns.
My name is Susan. My son is Adam and he's 11 and he has Down syndrome. So he spends 1 weekend a month here with Gillian and Kevin and he just has so much fun. He smiles, he laughs when he's going, he comes back and the stimulation that he has gotten from spending time with Kevin and Gillian and their 3 daughters is just incredible. I felt guilty at first. I did. I had this guilt, I'm sending my child off to strangers. But I've realised that it gives me a new lease of life and when he comes home, I've got more energy. I wouldn't let my child just go off with anybody or let him stay anywhere. I mean, I love my child just as much as you love your child. But this is the best option for him.
My name is Gillian and I've been a host family with St Michael's House for the past year. We support a little boy, an 11-year-old boy with Down syndrome called Adam. I knew a few people that went to a host family for respite services and I just thought it was a brilliant idea. It was in somebody's home, it was like a second home for the person, it was ideal. But we kind of felt the benefits really being a host family would be that our children would kind of grow up having somebody nearly as part of our family, you know, just a sense of inclusion, and for them to grow up knowing that even though people might have differences, that everyone's the same at the end of the day. Seeing them interact with Adam is amazing. Like, and they just look forward to the breaks all the time. They love him coming down. He has his own bedroom. You know, they have it set up for him. They know they don't touch anything that's in it because it's his. He really is just part of the family. What I found great as well is when we started it all, we were given, you know, all the information on everything. You're not on your own, even though they're coming to your home. You're not on your own. You're still part of a bigger, you know, thing that you can ring for support if you need it.
To sum up home sharing, it's a very individualised and personalised service, and it's based on the principles of normalisation, social inclusion, and where people have deep and meaningful relationships with others. It's an enriching experience for everyone.
Obviously, I have friends now that have children with Down syndrome or with special needs, and I'm all the time saying to them, you need to do this, you need to do this for you need to do this for your child. For me, it's like, I think they're walking angels, but they're getting a lot out of it too.
It just feels right, like, and like, people say, oh God, how can you give up? To me, it's my social outlet with them as well. Like, if I'm feeling down, they cheer me up.
I really think it's so beneficial, and I think more people should do it. And if you're even just considering it, just ring and look for the information and talk to someone. You know, I'd love more people to do it.
Now, I'm back, I hope. I'd like to introduce our panel this evening. I'm joined by Fidama Kelly, social care team worker, leader. Sorry, excuse me, Fidama. I was a bit thrown there by making sure no YouTube is going on in the background. Fidama, you just saw there taking part in the video. And we're also joined by Vincent Quinlan, who is here to speak on behalf of his family. Vincent's brother Martin is part of the home sharing programme. So we're going to speak to Vincent in a moment. But Fidama, I think we'll come to you first and just ask if you can tell us a little bit about the background to the home sharing programme and why it was set up, please.
Yeah, Jackie, home sharing actually has been in situ for the last 30 years. And I think it was around 2007, St. Michael's House started to look at alternative respite support. So looking at an alternative to, say, residential respite supports. And it would be remiss of me not to mention a colleague who sadly passed away, but she was instrumental in setting up home sharing, and that was the late Deirdre McNamara, principal social worker, who would have sent the proposal to St. Michael's House. So St. Michael's House using their own existing funding, and we got a little bit of seed funding from Genio, and we established home sharing in 2009, and we started off very humble, Jackie, as a very small pilot project. I think my remit was to just recruit 5 home sharing families, and extraordinarily, it just developed, it just blossomed, and it became a very viable option and alternative support for our service users. So we are a shared service, so we work in adults and we work in children's services. And in 2016, as the scheme was expanding rapidly, St. Michael's House recognised that I needed more support. So I was very fortunate to be able to have a part-time senior social worker to work alongside me. And then again in 2018, we got a part-time coordinator. So we're a small team. It's just myself who manages the scheme. Then there's Brenda Walsh, she's a senior social worker, and Elaine Sweeney, who is our coordinator. And we run the home sharing service. Today we have 50 home sharing families, and we have, I think it's 58 guests availing of home sharing. So you're looking at 30 children and 28 adults. And yeah, we're in a very exciting stage.
You're a small team, but you're doing mighty work, Fidama. And you mentioned there that the programme has grown quite quickly, and I mean the numbers there are testament to that. Can you tell us a bit about the different strands now? Like, how has the program evolved, and is there different strands and schemes that people can get involved in through? It's not just one program, I assume. Is there different strands to this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Jackie. There is 3 different services under the umbrella of home sharing. So the first that we have is home sharing host families. So host families are people like you and I in the community that are recruited, trained and assessed to provide a short break to an adult or a child in their own family home. And we very much work around the home sharing families availability. And I suppose it's very much, typically you'd have maybe only one guest going to a host family. But then in recognition of, say, the physical and behavioural and healthcare needs of some of our guests with intellectual disability that are more complex, they're more challenging, they're more enhanced, we have what we call the home sharing contract families or individuals. So they're like service providers, and contract families are very experienced in the field of either intellectual disability or social care. And they provide a number of respite sessions per month. So you're looking at a contract family that could have up to 4 guests coming to their family home, and they must give a commitment to us of, say, either providing 8 sessions in a calendar month or 10 sessions. And I suppose to explain, a session can be an overnight or a day care. And we've even home sharing families contract families doing 20 sessions per calendar month. And it's important to say there's a higher payment with that. And that's in recognition of what's the service they're providing to us, but it's also in recognition of the needs of the guest, which are far more enhanced. And then finally, in the last few years, we actually have shared living families. And what that means is that they provide full-time care to a person with an intellectual disability. And it's very similar to a fostering placement, but for an adult. And it's extraordinary, like the shared living family makes their home available on a full-time basis to the individual, and they're very much part of their family. And similar to contract families, there would be an enhanced payment with that. There would be a retainer in recognition of the service they're providing, but there's also a nightly allowance in recognition of the needs of the service user. And we've 2 shared living families in St. Michael's House. So that's a relatively new departure for us, but it's something we're very excited about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to come to Vincent now for a moment. Vincent, we'll bring you in. You're sitting there patiently. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for representing your family. Just to introduce, I suppose, your brother Martin is part of the St. Michael's House service, and he is availing of the home sharing programme. Can you tell us a little bit about the benefits of this for your family first of all, having this programme?
Well, first of all, for my mom and dad, I suppose my parents are getting old, and so for my mom wants to do that, and even to go out for a couple of hours on a Saturday or do that, and first thing she has to do is make sure Martin's okay, you know what I mean? So I mean, and even if she goes out and Martin's not properly taken care of, she can't rest. So unless Martin's taken care of or looked after in a certain way, she doesn't rest or not even at peace emotionally. So the benefit for my mother has changed, has made a great difference, and especially during the COVID situation, with them, some of Martin's service being cut already, from the 5 days to 3. I mean, the home sharing has been a great benefit, has helped an awful lot in that as well. So yeah, my mother's not coping well at the moment, to be honest. And without home sharing, she would be in a worse place than she is now. So that's the benefit, for my mother are just beyond measure, really. I can't.
And tell us a little bit about the benefits for Martin himself by being part of this.
Well, for Martin himself, I mean, Martin is like anyone else. He's social. He likes people. He likes to go out. I'm sure, like us all, we all love friends knocking at the door. My friend has called me and going out with my friends. So the benefit for Martin really is that someone is calling for him. When his home share help comes, they give him the date. He immediately puts that in his calendar in his bedroom, and he looks forward to it for days. He can't wait for it to come, and he marks it off and he counts down the days. So, I mean, Martin doesn't have much in life for something to look forward to. I mean, I myself I've gone away for weekends with friends. I mean, Martin doesn't really go away for weekends. None of those little things that we take for granted in life. So to have something like Home Share where you can, for him to mark on his calendar and look forward to it, it's and he really does. He gets excited. He can't wait for it to happen. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm talking to you, I suppose, from a dual aspect now, Vincent, because you're speaking on behalf of your family and your brother, but I'm talking to you directly now because you've been quite inspired by the home sharing program, that you've decided to become a host family yourself, and you're taking part in the process to become a host. Can you tell us a little bit from your own experience, the training side of things, or how you felt the process has worked for you to become a home sharing host?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it was my wife that really, she started. She had a great desire to help. And when we first got involved, it wasn't with St. Michael's House. We used to live in Ennis in County Clare, and the home sharing program was there with Brothers of Charity. So the same process that you have was the same process there. And we got involved with sharing, with hosting a family, and just the benefits where, as I said, I take for granted. I can just go for a weekend, whereas these families couldn't. So we end up, and you get all the help you need, whatever you struggle with, whatever you need, phone calls. I mean, like, it's exactly what your video says. If you need help, and I mean, the first host family we did was highly dependent. She was in a wheelchair. She needed to be peg fed, all those things. It was quite difficult, but we got all the help we need, and she couldn't speak and stuff like that. But I mean, taking her for walks and the smile on her face, I mean, and even the family took a while to adjust to us. But again, that was all slow, patient, all the questions were answered and stuff like that. So like, you've all the background help, like you think you're a family and what can you do, but you do really get the help of the service. They really do row in behind you. And once you get the help, you get on your feet and answer any questions you need. But really, I find even with that highly dependent girl, they're just people like you. They love a smile. I used to sing songs, so I just love interaction with people, taking for a walk, spending time with them. So there's no different to yourself. I love people when they spend time with me. So yeah, I think people need to realize they are people. They love people smiling, and they know they're loved and welcome, just like any person. We all know if we're welcomed and loved, and I think the special need people know that they're loved and welcome. So I think if you smile and love them well, they'll respond to all that. So.
Thanks for that, Vincent. Fadel, I'll come back to you quickly for a second there, just to, I suppose we're all about the positives of this, and the positives far away any kind of negatives. But I suppose it'd be remiss of me if I didn't ask you to identify any initial challenges that people who have come onto the program have faced, trying to become a host. Could we talk about maybe some of those challenges that would be normal to some families starting this process, and how we support them?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Jackie. Particularly in the beginning when you're being assessed as a home sharing family, there's a lot of high governance around this, because you got to be mindful. We're placing very vulnerable adults and children in a family home that I, as the manager, cannot supervise 24/7. So I need to make sure, number one, the guest is going to be happy, but more importantly, the guest is going to be safe and the home sharing family is safe. So I think it might be daunting for some new applicants, and we're actually just in the midst of doing this right now, so it's quite live, is the amount of paperwork, but we look after that. So there's a lot of background checks. So I'll just explain. We do medical checks on the applicants, we do TUSLA, child protection background checks, we do personal referee checks, and we do Garda vetting. But we look after that, and Elaine, our coordinator, is extraordinarily organised, and she's really good at managing that and supporting the home sharing applicant through that. What can be daunting as well maybe is the training. There is a lot of training around home sharing, and that's a good thing. I see that as progress. So there has to be, say, adult safeguarding training that you have to do online now. There's the HSC Children First has to be done online. Anybody working in the social care field has to do that now. There's safe administration of medication training, that's face-to-face training, that has to be done, mandatory. And then our own home sharing training, that's mandatory, that has to be done. So that can be daunting, but again, we're a small team, we help people navigate through that process. And there are some applicants who are not IT savvy. And what I would say to people is, please don't worry about that. We'll support you through all of that. But I can understand if I was starting off this process, it may seem a little daunting, but we take the bureaucracy out. We look after that. That's what I would say.
Exactly. And I mean, it is a very thorough process, but I think anybody coming onto this will appreciate that we are dealing with very vulnerable people in the community, and this process, as you just described, is there to protect them, but it's there to protect the host family. So okay, there's a bit of training involved, and there's a bit of bureaucracy, as you said, but that is all there to make sure that the event, the host is comfortable going forward, and that they're supported from the off, and that all boxes are ticked and everybody knows where they stand, really. And I think once you get through that process, you'll actually really appreciate having been through it, and where it brings you next. What feedback have you had, Fidelma, from families in the programme to date?
So do you mean the natural family, Jackie, or home sharing families?
Both. Tell us a bit about,
we actually did research because we were a pilot project. We got an external organisation. It was University College Cork, and they did research on the home sharing scheme. I think it was 2011, 2012, and it was overwhelmingly positive. The feedback that we got was that people wanted more of this support. Say Natural Families described it as a lifeline. And I think Vincent in our chat earlier during the week said, like, even if I know I'm getting a short break, it doesn't matter if it's daycare or overnight, that will sustain me. And I think, it was time, give the family time just to, focus on themselves, focus on the children in the house. But it was also an opportunity for the guests, to develop relationships outside of their own family. We're very much a community-based service. We're very much an individualized service. We're a personalized service, and we're a home away from home service. So it's wonderful because the home sharing family can solely focus on the guest and their needs and adapt like a holiday service for them while they're there, be it daycare, be it overnight, be it a weekend, be it a week. It was very positive. And I suppose one of the fascinating things is to see the relationship develop between the natural family and the home sharing family and the systemic benefits of that. That's what really struck me as well. And I suppose I see that a lot in my work. People just want more of this support. It's very simple. That was the findings.
Bottom line. I'm going to look at some of the questions now, and if anybody wants to add in a question there into the chat box, please do. I do have one or two that people who couldn't join us this evening had sent through to me on email to ask for you to come back to them on, Fidelma. One of the questions was, I've no experience with intellectual disabilities or people with intellectual disabilities. Does that matter?
No, it doesn't, Jackie. And again, I'm just thinking of a case that I'm working on at the moment. We've just got a host family approved in County Meath. They're a mature couple. They have no experience in intellectual disability. They do have experience of caring for very vulnerable children. So with that couple in mind, we look very careful at the matching. So we match the needs of the guest to the skill set of the home sharing family. So I'm looking at potentially placing a young gentleman who has a moderate intellectual disability with that couple. And he needs some assistance, but he's quite independent. And I think he'd be a good match in light of their skill set. So we do take great consideration. We spend a lot of time trying to get the matching right. So don't let that deter you, not at all. Again, if you have somebody with very high medical needs, then you're going to place them with a nurse, someone of that skill set. And that's why we have contract families. As I said, they're the specialist carers. They would provide the support to people with more enhanced needs. So,
another question here. I don't have a spare room. Does that mean I can't become a host family?
No, it's not an issue. I mean, for example, with some of our home sharing families, they provide daycare. Similar to that, we actually have a home sharing family in Selbridge in Kildare, and they don't have room to provide overnight stay, but they provide daycare to some of our children with autism. So it's fantastic. So we work around, we're very flexible service. We work around people's lifestyle here. We work around their accommodation, their work commitments, family commitments. So we adapt our service to make it work. So no, don't let that deter you, not at all.
We're flexible. That actually leads on to another question here that has come in around a shift worker, that, you know, they're saying that they can't commit to definite scheduled dates. Is that a problem?
No, not at all. Again, Jackie, the minimal requirement, we would say, for a host family, if they can provide about 8 short breaks in a calendar year, that's the minimum requirement. So I'm currently working with a couple. They're both residential care workers, and they get their roster every 2 weeks. So I get short notice from them to say, Fidelma, we're available this weekend, and we contact the family and say, do you wish to avail of this? So I suppose you have to just be mindful that the natural family and the guests are okay with that the breaks might be at short notice. But it's not an issue, Jackie, not at all.
Yeah. So there's a lot of overlap with the questions. I think they're all very similar. So one of the last questions I suppose I'll ask you is, I live outside Dublin. Can I get involved? Do we only work with hosts that are based in Dublin?
Yeah, what we do, Jackie, is I suppose you have to be realistic here. And from a logistics point of view, the maximum we'll do is about an hour and a half outside of Dublin. So anyone outside of that catchment area, what I would say, if you're interested in becoming a home sharing family, what I would say is go onto the National Home Sharing and Short Breaks website. So it's called nhsn.ie, and click on find a service, and then you click on your county. So if I'm say interested in becoming a home sharing family and I live in County Louth, I click on that and I see, Positive Futures, they're the service provider in County Louth that provide home sharing. So you can look up the National Home Sharing and Short Breaks Network site. But yeah, we would say, just from a practical point of view, you got to think of transport about an hour and a half max outside of Dublin.
Yeah. So bottom line, we're very flexible. We're encouraging everybody to come forward and take part in this program. We're really welcoming families from all around Dublin or just outside. And shift work, spare rooms, all of that really will make it work is the bottom line. And the benefits are just, as Vincent has testified to, the benefits for the family, for the service user, and for the host are just endless, really. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for joining me this evening. I think this information session is important, especially this week, Carers Week, but more importantly because of the year that we've had. And we've all had a tough year, but I think this year has been extremely tough on carers. This program hopefully can build, and we'll just keep providing that support. But for anybody watching this playback, there's a lot more information on our website, www.smh.ie. And Fidelma, tell me, is there an email address or contact that you want to give?
Yeah, it's very simple, Jackie. It's homesharing@smh.ie. Phone number 018770500.
We'll be sure to put those details into the text when we advertise out this playback. Thank you, Vincent, for joining us.
Can I just say, Jackie, just on that, when you did the talk question about the training, from my point of view, and I didn't even know I was doing the training. Like you really do, you do the heavy lifting. I mean, so just anyone that's coming along, training, what's that? You do all the heavy lifting. You help us through it, and really, it's not like work. You're really inviting someone into your home to fit into your home, what your way of life, the way I do life at home. Like if I go to football matches with my son, you take that person, with you. You take them to the cinema. You're going to wrestling with your family. So it really is, you're inviting someone into your home to be part of your family, your everyday life, and to be part of how your life works. You know what I mean? So, and then the training that's involved, I just like to say, St. Michael's House do all the heavy lifting. You know what I mean? They train you, and they continue to give you smart support, but you do all the heavy lifting. So it can make it, just when you're talking, they can make it sound like as if it wasn't that daunting. I didn't even know when through the training it was that good and helpful. So I just want to people to encourage them with that, you know. So
yeah, no, thank you for that. I suppose we just want to be very transparent with people about the process. But the fact that you've gone through it and you can testify that, you know, it was worthwhile and it wasn't as taxing as we're making it sound is important.
No,
but
it was a couple of, you have to give time to go to courses and stuff like that. But I mean, it's just, I suppose there's like a couple of hours or more, 5 or 6 hours of time where you have to go to sessions and learn stuff and stuff like that. But really, it's all very well thought through and very well trained. So it's very good. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you. And I think the last point you made there is a good place to end this, in that it is called home sharing for a reason. You are inviting somebody into your home and they are going to slot into your life and your routine, and it's just to make it fun for everybody, a fun experience. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to those who have come online tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.